was a sultry night in Paris when a candlelit confession began to unravel a web that reached the highest salons of Louis XIV's court. The year was 1679, and the city smelled of tallow and fear. A modest house in Saint-Germain, a fortune-teller's booth, and a chemist's back room were the unlikely nerve centers of a conspiracy of murder, magic, and breathtaking privilege. Catherine Voisin, known to history as La Voisin, had built a business on two trades the Ancien Regime could not resist: poison and prophecy. Women and men of rank came to her for charms to win love, powders to ease childbirth, and, when patience wore thin, vials to silence rivals. La Voisin's network supplied lethal brews and arranged black masses, performed by corrupt priests who promised supernatural guarantees. Testimony collected later would claim that infant bodies were offered to demons. Historians still debate the veracity of every lurid detail, but the pattern of killings was clear. Paris's new police lieutenant, Gabriel Nicolas de la Reynie, had been trying to impose order on a capital swelling with money and intrigue. In 1679, a series of small arrests, poison sellers like Marie Beauce and her associates, proved a loose thread. Under interrogation, they named customers in Versailles and the Faubourg Saint-Germain. Names that should have been unthinkable surfaced: aristocrats desperate for power or love, and whispers never proved in open court that Françoise Athénaïs de Rochechouart, the Marquise de Montespan and the king's own chief mistress, had solicited La Voisin's services. What the investigators uncovered was less a single murder plot than an ecosystem. Poisoners learned recipes, arsenic mixtures, oils, slow-working compounds, sold them in doses that mimicked illness, and arranged discreet deliveries. Fortune-tellers and charlatans cultivated clients. Priests like Etienne Guibourg agreed to perform obscene rites promising success in return for fees, and a circulation of letters, coin, and confidences linked tenants of the demi-monde to dukes and duchesses. Homicide blended with occult commerce. Motive ranged from inheritance disputes to jealousies and the corrosive anxieties of a court in which favor meant livelihood. La Reynie pressed his case into a special tribunal, the Chambre Ardente, and the proceedings that followed shocked Paris. La Voisin, found guilty in 1680, was publicly executed. Other poisoners were hanged or burned. Yet as the investigation climbed the social ladder, the crown turned cautious. Louis XIV, ruthlessly protective of his image, feared that public trials exposing the private sins of high-born patrons would fatally wound royal prestige. Rather than a full airing, many implicated nobles were dealt with quietly. Lettres de cachet, secret imprisonment in the Bastille, exile. The court's secrecy was itself a kind of cover-up that transformed legal process into political preservation. At the heart of the affair lay ambiguity. Testimony that linked Montespan and other grandees to rituals and plots was often obtained under duress. Names were traded like currency in interrogation rooms. Some accused clergy confessed, some recanted. The most sensational claims, mass child murders, satanic pacts, have been reassessed by modern historians as partly the product of panic, partly the reality of an underground trade in murder. What remains incontrovertible is that dozens died by poison, that a commercial market for killing thrived, and that the scandal exposed how vulnerability and vice could ride filtered candlelight straight into the king's bedchamber. The affair of the poisons left scars. It intensified paranoia about poisoning across Europe, reshaped policing in Paris, and illuminated the fragile theatrical world of Versailles, where public splendor masked private desperation. Louis XIV's decision to suppress public trials preserved his reign, but buried a deeper wound, a court capable of commissioning murder to protect its interests. For La Voisin and the lower orders, the public hangings were final. For the nobles who whispered and then vanished from records, silence and exile became the state's sentence. The truth, like many poisons, was administered slowly, lethal, intimate, and almost invisible until it had already taken its toll.